The 22-23 season was full of ups and downs. For some, this season was just a nightmare, which they want to forget as soon as possible. But at the same time, there are lucky ones who managed to make their fans happy with their success. They were the key players for their clubs, helping them meet the expectations. Goal24 is going to tell you about the best footballers of the 22-23 season. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so as not to miss our new videos that are released each week. And before we start, answer a question. Which team conceded more goals from Vinicius Jr. as a Real Madrid player? Valencia, Levante, Liverpool, Barcelona? Leave your answers in the comments. And now we get started. Newcastle: Callum Wilson, Joelinton, Kieran Trippier and Sven Botman. Eddie Howe's side has been sensational this season. The English coach took charge of the Magpies during the previous season, when the club had been dragging in the bottom of the table. The manager not only surprised the fans by avoiding relegation, but also with the 11th place finish. At the start of this season, however, nobody expected anything special from Newcastle, especially when their squad seemed weaker than that of any top 6 clubs. Despite that, Howe managed to succeed by developing his players. And these footballers were so brilliant that Newcastle finished 4th, securing a Champions League spot for the next season. First of all, we should mention Callum Wilson, the forward who missed a big part of the previous season because of an injury. After his recovery, he became a first-choice striker again, showing a great game. 18 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League are the best numbers in the career of 31-year-old Callum, as we don't take the stats from lower leagues into account. This season, Joelinton had a huge impact on the game of his team too. The Brazilian was used to playing as a forward throughout his career. Sometimes he played on the wings. However, he was very unreliable in his first years for Newcastle, as he didn't score much. That is why Eddie Howe found a new role for the player, positioning him in the center of the midfield. And Joelinton was just brilliant in his new position. The Brazilian showed a great level of efficiency and aided his team in the center of the pitch. The midfielder was the balance thanks to which Newcastle turned into a real threat for their opponents. Among other things, the Magpies conceded the least number of goals in the Premier League, just like the champions Manchester City. This was possible thanks to the disciplined defense, and Sven Botman played a key role in that. The centre-back arrived at Newcastle from Lille last summer for €37 million. He added a lot of quality and refreshed the defense. Thanks to that, the opponents were able to score only 32 goals against Newcastle during the whole course of the Premier League. Another Magpies defender, Kieran Trippier, was counted out not so long ago. Some fans thought his best years were far gone, but the Englishman shot a lot of haters this year. The right-back proved that he can be helpful to Newcastle, both in the attack and the defense. His numbers are speaking of it: 1 goal and 7 assists in the tournament. Kieran was far from such stats even in his best years at Tottenham. Rafael Leao. The Portuguese winger was one of the main creators for Milan's triumph in Serie A last season. He scored 11 goals and made 8 assists in the previous season, helping the Rossoneri win their first Scudetto since 2011. Unfortunately, this season, AC Milan was not at their best, as they hardly finished 4th in Serie A. Besides, it was possible thanks to the fact that Juventus was docked 10 points. However, Leao kept developing. This season, the Portuguese was once again a key player in the team's attack. In recent years, he has proven many times that he is one of the best dribblers in Europe, able to create moments out of nowhere. This season, Leao scored 13 goals and made 8 assists in Serie A, which is his personal record for now. Rafael's achievements in the Champions League should also be mentioned. The Portuguese dragged his team to the semi-final almost alone, and it was the first semi-final for the Rossoneri since 2007. Thanks to all the above-mentioned achievements, Leao was awarded a new contract with AC Milan with a buyout clause of €170 million. Jude Bellingham. This season was the third for the 19-year-old midfielder at Borussia Dortmund. During this campaign, there were a lot of rumors about his future, and there was a reason for that. Jude is arguably the most talented midfielder in Europe, which cannot but draw the attention of big clubs. This season, Bellingham gained more experience and demonstrated a more mature game. The Englishman has even leveled up his efficiency in the attack. His 8 goals and 4 assists in the Bundesliga speak louder than any words. Unfortunately, this was not enough for Jude to win the title in his final season at Borussia, though all they had to do for that was to beat Mainz on the last match day, a club that had nothing to fight for. Many top clubs, including almost all the leading Premier League sides, are planning to sign Bellingham this summer, but the player has already decided to move to Real Madrid as they are going to pay 100 million euros for him. This is not an official deal yet, but it's just a matter of time. Dear friends, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel as we are trying to reach the 5,000 followers mark, so hit that bell button and let's continue. Marcus Rashford. Last season was a real disaster for the Englishman. The player lost his place in the first 11 and finished the season with only 4 goals in the Premier League. So to change the situation, the forward did not stop training during his vacation, working hard to regain his former shape. With the arrival of the new head coach, Erik ten Hag, it all changed for Marcus at Man United. Under the new manager, the forward once again became the main star in the attack. The player has regained his flair and pace, thanks to which he was able to dribble past any opponents. Marcus finished the season with 30 goals in all competitions. In the Premier League alone, he scored 17 goals, repeating his own record from the 1920 season. Erik ten Hag naturally was happy with the Englishman's performance. The Dutch manager is worried by the fact that Rashford has only a year on his contract. However, both the player and the board are ready to sign a long-term deal. Considering Marcus's latest contribution, he will definitely get a solid raise. The Englishman managed to revive his career this season, but many other players were not so lucky or didn't work that hard. We've recently uploaded a video about the biggest disappointments of this season, so make sure you watch it after you're done with this one. Vinicius Jr. and Karim Benzema. It's hard to say that this was a successful season for Real Madrid, as the club won only one trophy, Copa del Rey. However, 2 key attacking players of Los Blancos performed quite well this season. Winger Vinicius Jr. progressed a lot in his first season under Carlo Ancelotti and was quite efficient in the attack. The outcome of all that was the goal he scored against Liverpool in the Champions League final last year. But the Brazilian didn't stop on that, and this season he gained terrific form. The footballer became a real master of dribbling, winning all the one-on-one situations with elite defenders. In La Liga, Vinicius scored 10 goals and made 9 assists. In terms of goals, it was kind of a setback, as last season he had scored 17 goals in La Liga. However, the overall picture is that Vinicius has become more mature compared to the previous seasons. We should not forget his 7 goals and 5 assists in the Champions League, without which Real Madrid would hardly make it into the semi-final. Also, the Spanish Cup campaign should be mentioned, as Vinicius became the main star of the tournament, scoring 3 goals and making 4 assists. Most of those key moments were in the semi-final and final, where Los Blancos defeated Barcelona and Osasuna. Last season, Karim Benzema became the top scorer both in La Liga and the Champions League, thanks to which he won the Ballon d'Or award. Compared to the triumphant season, this campaign was not that successful for the Frenchman. However, the forward was very helpful to his team despite all the injuries he got. At the beginning of the season, Karim missed games several times because of various injuries, but eventually he found his shape. Despite all the difficulties, Karim had a decent season, scoring 19 goals in La Liga. That's 4 less than Robert Lewandowski, who became the top scorer of the competition. To be fair, we should mention the fact that Karim spent 10 games less than the Polish forward. And if we talk about all competitions, Benzema scored 31 goals. Considering all the problems, that's quite an impressive result for the Ballon d'Or holder. Antoine Griezmann. In recent years, the Frenchman seemed a wasted material who will not be able to impress with his great game anymore. Moving to Barcelona in 2019, his career somewhat stalled as Antoine was unable to play in his favorite position in the center of attack, and he was made to play on the wings. Griezmann struggled at Camp Nou for 2 seasons, until eventually the board admitted the failure of the transfer that cost the club €120 million. In summer 2021, the Frenchman made a return to Atletico Madrid on a 2-year loan spell, but in his first season he was not that good. At the beginning of this season, Griezmann at last pulled himself together and started showing results. At first he was in a difficult situation as he wasn't starting games. The thing is that, had Antoine started a specific number of games, Los Colchoneros would have been obliged to buy him out for €40 million. That is why Diego Simeone subbed him in during matches until Atletico board managed to get a 50% discount. Eventually, Atleti bought Griezmann out for €20 million, and that turned out to be the right decision. The forward now plays in a different role. He is almost a midfielder now. His efficiency on the pitch has reached a new level. In the World Cup, Antoine made the most number of successful tackles out of all France players, helping his team win the second place. A more defensive role did not really affect Griezmann's efficiency in the attack, as this season Antoine scored 15 goals and made 16 assists in La Liga. Many pundits consider Griezmann the best player of this season in Spain, and that cannot but please. We'll see if the 32-year-old forward will be able to keep doing the same next season. Arsenal, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Martinelli. The Gunners provided a real surprise package in England this season, leading the table for a very long time. This became possible thanks to the progress of 3 attacking footballers that scored more than 10 goals in the competition each. The most surprising was probably Gabriel Martinelli, as this was his 4th season at the Emirates. The Brazilian was always considered a promising player, but this season his form was on the peak. Since the very beginning of the season, Gabriel demonstrated his progress in many aspects, and the most important, he started scoring goals. The forward finished the competition with 15 goals and 5 assists. These are very decent numbers, as Martinelli is only 21 years old. The board was also delighted with his progress and offered him a deal on much better conditions. The Arsenal Academy product Bukayo Saka is the same age as Gabriel, and he is a real fan favorite at Emirates. At his young age, the midfielder managed to win a couple of domestic trophies and even missed a penalty in the final of Euro 2020 for England against Italy. After such a disaster, young Saka did not break and pulled himself up, scoring 11 goals and making 7 assists that year. Before the 22-23 season, Bukayo set new targets and managed to make progress. The Englishman became even more unyielding and was a real threat for the Premier League defenders who were unable to chase him down. Saka scored 14 goals and made 11 assists in the course of the season. Recently, the player extended his contract, becoming one of the highest-earning players at Arsenal. Considering all he does for the club, that is a very fair deal. Another key performer for Arsenal's success this season is Martin Odegaard. The Norwegian midfielder joined Arsenal on loan in January 2021, and soon the Gunners bought him out from Real Madrid. At Emirates, Martin easily integrated into the team, becoming a core player. At the beginning of this season, he was trusted with the captain's armband. The 24-year-old midfielder was not far behind Martinelli and Saka in terms of stats. Odegaard scored 15 goals and made 7 assists in the Premier League, which is a personal record for him. Arsenal appreciate their captain's contribution in the success of this season. The Gunners actively try to extend Martin's contract, but the player is taking time to make a decision. Unfortunately, Arsenal missed the trophy at the very end of the tournament as they had a bad run of games. We'll see if Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard will be able to lead the team once again in the battle for the title. Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappé. The first season of the Argentine in Paris was a real failure. Previously, when at Barcelona, everybody had been used to seeing Messi score loads of goals. That's why his 6 goals and 14 assists in Ligue 1 were a good reason to criticize the player. At the beginning of this season, Lionel proved that the previous one was just an adaptation period, and he was going to be a different story now. and the Argentine kept his promise. At first he started his club campaign well, and then he went to the World Cup in a great form, winning the Best Player award and of course the long-anticipated title of the World Champion. This has greatly increased his chances of winning his 8th Ballon d'Or award. Returning to PSG, Messi kept performing on the pitch. Well, it was not enough though to avoid a relegation from the last 16 stage in the Champions League tie against Bayern. Despite his team's failure, Leo Messi had an impressive season, scoring 16 goals and making 16 assists in Ligue 1. Most probably, the Argentine is going to leave PSG this summer as a free agent, as he doesn't believe in this project. Barcelona is eager to bring Messi back to the club, but it is yet unclear if they are able to arrange the historic reunion without violating the financial fair play rules. Going back to the World Cup, it should be mentioned that Messi was only the second top scorer of the tournament. The Golden Boot was won by his PSG teammate Kylian Mbappé. This season was quite a difficult one for the Frenchman, and there were reasons for that. Last summer, the player declined a deal from Real Madrid and extended his contract with PSG, becoming the highest earning player on the planet for a short period of time. But in the first weeks of the season, there were already rumors in the press that Mbappé regretted he hadn't moved to Real Madrid. The reason were conflicts with other star players like Neymar and his disagreement with the board over their policies. However, there can be no complaints over Kylian's game on the pitch. The 24-year-old Frenchman scored 29 goals in Ligue 1, becoming the top scorer of the competition once again. In the Champions League, the player scored 7 goals, although he didn't help his team when it mattered the most against Bayern Munich. However, the World Cup was quite successful for Mbappé despite their defeat in the final. Besides the Golden Boot award, Kylian became the second player in history that scored a hat-trick in the final of the World Cup. By the way, he already has 12 goals under his belt in 2 World Cups. There's only 4 goals left to break Miroslav Klose's record. Considering that Kylian is only 24 years old, becoming the best ever goalscorer in all World Cups is only a matter of time. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen. Napoli provided another surprise package of the 22-23 season. Before the start of the season, the team had to be rebuilt as many key players had left the club. However, the management did have a good transfer campaign, thanks to which they won their first Serie A title in 33 years. One of the best transfers of the season can be considered Khvicha Kvaratskhelia's move to Napoli from Dinamo Batumi. The Georgian shocked Serie A immediately as he won the Player of the Month award in August. The footballer scored all kinds of goals and demonstrated impressive dribbling. Khvicha deservedly became one of the best Serie A footballers and a key player on the way to the title. In Serie A, Kvaratskhelia scored 12 goals and made 10 assists. In the Champions League, the Georgian scored 2 goals and made 4 assists, helping Napoli reach the quarter-final stage for the first time in their history. The overall impression was a bit distracted by the missed penalty against AC Milan in the second leg of the tie, but the supporters forgot that very quickly, as they knew that without him they would hardly have gotten that far in the tournament. As expected, Kvaratskhelia has drawn the attention of many big clubs. The player's desire is to move to Real Madrid, but he would hardly get a chance at Santiago Bernabeu while Vinicius Jr. is playing there. Besides, Napoli will hardly sell Khvicha in the nearest future. We can make such a conclusion considering the personality of the club owner Aurelio De Laurentiis. The majority of Kvaratskelia's assists were aimed at Victor Osimhen, who progressed greatly this season, proving he's an elite goalscorer. The Nigerian was great both at pressing and passing, but his main attribute was of course finishing. Victor was merciless in the opposition penalty box and scored 26 goals in Serie A, becoming the top scorer of the competition. This summer, a bunch of clubs will be aiming to buy the Nigerian. Some of them are prepared to pay more than 100 million euros for him, which makes the move quite possible. Among the contenders are the likes of PSG, Bayern, Chelsea and Manchester United. All these clubs show interest in the player, but we're yet to see who's going to win. Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland. Last summer, Manchester City parted ways with several key players, among them Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko. Some supporters were worried that this could weaken the team for some time until the newcomers got used to the head coach Josep Guardiola's requirements. Arguably, the most star newcomer Erling Haaland did not agree to that opinion, and he started proving that from match day one. The monster Norwegian easily adapted to the Premier League and destroyed any opposition defense. There were various records Haaland broke this season, but two of them are especially worthy of mentioning. Scoring 36 goals in the triumphant Premier League season for City, the forward broke the record of Mohamed Salah for the most number of goals in a season he had set in the 17-18 season. Overall, Haaland had 44 goal contributions this season, repeating Thierry Henry's record. In all competitions, Haaland scored 52 goals, and Man City are yet to play their Champions League final. In that competition, the Norwegian is also the top scorer with 12 goals under his belt. In the second leg of the RB Leipzig tie in the last 16 stage, Erling scored a glut, becoming the third player after Lionel Messi and Luis Adriano that managed to score 5 goals in a Champions League game. Such achievements, of course, make Haaland a Ballon d'Or contender. If Manchester City win the Champions League title this season, Messi will have a serious competition for the award. Another important player for the citizens is of course Kevin De Bruyne. Without him, the potential treble would hardly be possible, as he made a vast number of assists this season. Despite he's 31 years old already, it doesn't stop the Belgian from progressing and maintaining his status of one of the best midfielders on the planet. His vision is something out of this world. This season he made 16 assists in the Premier League, which is twice as much as last year. In all competitions, Kevin made 36 goal contributions, which is incredible. And yet again, Man City still have a Champions League final to play. This season was successful for many players individually, but we included only those players in our list who contributed to their team's success. That's why we missed players like Harry Kane, for instance. Although the Englishman scored 30 goals in the Premier League, this was a failed season for Tottenham in general. Friends, which player do you consider the best this season? Let us know your choice in the comments. We'll be happy to learn that. See you soon.